A young woman stands just off stage, one hand on the curtain, the other gripping her notes. Her chest is tight, her mouth is dry, her brain is screaming, "Do not go out there." She is not weak, she is perfectly wired. Cut to a guy staring at the send button on a job application, cursor blinking, heart racing. He has rewritten the same sentence 12 times. He is not a coward. He is perfectly wired. Now a person outside a gym door, they drove here, they changed clothes, but somehow the handle feels heavier than the barbell inside. In other words, it is not a lack of willpower holding them back. It is a brain doing exactly what it was built to do: protect, conserve, avoid risk. Most people believe that fear is a sign something is wrong with them, that if you were truly brave, truly disciplined, you would feel calm, confident, maybe even excited before every big moment. However, this view is completely misguided. And this is not a metaphor, it is a neurobiological fact. Your brain has a built-in survival alarm system, the amygdala. It can trigger a fear response in a few milliseconds, long before your rational thoughts can catch up. This is because, for most of human history, hesitation kept you alive. Rustle in the bushes, better to overreact than become something else's lunch. The problem is that your amygdala does not know the difference between a tiger in the grass and a microphone on a stage. Same pounding heart, same sweaty palms, same surge of energy. The environment changed, the wiring did not, and guess what? That wiring never goes away. This is the lie you have been sold about courage, that one day, with enough self-help, enough motivation, enough discipline, you will finally feel fearless. You will walk into the meeting, hit publish, step onto the platform with zero anxiety. Biologically, that is not how this works. Fear is not a bug in your character. It is a survival feature of your nervous system. You cannot delete it. You should not delete it. The real skill is learning how to redirect it, how to train it, how to turn that surge of immediate alarm into fuel for long-term growth. In this scenario, courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to move while fear is fully online. The most courageous people you know are not those who feel nothing. They are the ones who have practiced acting with shaking hands so many times that it looks effortless from the outside. So here's the most important detail. If you still feel fear before big moments, it is not proof that you are broken. It is proof that your brain is working. By the end of this video, you will stop treating fear as a stop sign and start using it as a training signal, a built-in guide that you can work with, not fight against. If fear isn't a glitch, the next question is obvious. Why does it feel so overpowering, so fast, and so out of your control? To answer that, you have to look at how your brain is actually built, not how you wish it behaved when you have big dreams and long-term goals. Deep in your brain sits a small, almond-shaped structure called the amygdala. Its entire job is survival. It scans your environment for danger and can trigger a full fear response in about 12 milliseconds. That is faster than you can consciously register a thought. In other words, by the time you're thinking, "Why am I so nervous?" your body has already slammed the alarm button and flooded you with adrenaline. And guess what? You did not choose that. You cannot discipline your amygdala into waiting politely for your rational brain to vote. This is because, for most of human history, the cost of being late to a threat was death. If the bushes rustled, it was better to overreact and jump than calmly sit there and become something's dinner. The problem is that this ancient survival code is still running in a completely different environment. Your ancestors worried about predators, starvation, and being exiled from the tribe. Today, your predator is a blank upload screen, a calendar invite for a presentation, or the thought of asking someone out. Objectively, you are not going to die if your podcast flops. But in this scenario, Your brain is still using Stone Age software to interpret modern life. So when you hover over post, your heart races. When you pitch a client or start a business, your palms sweat. When you share a vulnerable story, your chest tightens. Those sensations are not proof that the situation is truly life-threatening. They are simply your generic high alert mode. The same system fires when you get on a roller coaster or step onto a stage. Physiologically, fear and excitement look almost identical. Here's the most important detail. Your body does not label the feeling, you do. The racing heart, the shaky hands, the tunnel vision, that's just raw energy, a surge of fuel meant to help you move, speak, run, or act. With practice, you can learn to interpret that surge as "I'm ready" instead of "I'm in danger." Performers, athletes, even people who seem effortlessly confident have just rehearsed this reframe more times than you have. So if you've been judging yourself for feeling fear, you've basically been punishing your brain for doing its job. It is not cowardice, it is efficiency. Your system is optimized to protect you at all costs, instantly, with zero willpower required. In the next part, we'll take that same automatic machinery and show you how to train it, so fear becomes a signal to step forward, not a command to retreat. So now that you know your fear system is efficient, not broken, we have to talk about the hidden rule almost everyone is secretly obeying. I'll start when I'm not scared anymore. It sounds reasonable, it feels mature, and guess what? It is one of the most effective ways to stay stuck for years. Most people treat that rule as if it were a smart strategy. Once I feel ready, then I'll launch. Once I'm less nervous, then I'll speak up. However, this view is completely misguided. The problem is that this is not a strategy. It is a brain glitch. Your survival wiring is designed to delay anything uncertain because uncertainty means possible threat, and threat means possible loss of comfort, energy, or status. Here's the most important detail, that wiring does not turn off when you have a nice plan, a vision board, or a 5-year goal. The amygdala can fire a fear response in a few milliseconds long before the rational part of your brain finishes its motivational speech. In other words, every time you walk to the edge of your comfort zone, your system will scan for risk and it will find something. This is because the survival system was built for a world where every rustle in the bushes might be a predator. Today, the predator is a critical comment, a boring audience, or a video that gets 3 views. Your brain cannot tell the difference, so you wait for the day when the fear finally disappears. That day never comes, not because you are weak, but because you are alive. Courageous people are not the ones who feel less fear. They are the ones who have trained themselves to move with fear in the room. To them, fear becomes background noise, not a stop sign. Think of it like a smoke alarm that is overly sensitive. It still beeps, but you learn when to cook anyway. Take public speaking. Beginners imagine that professionals feel calm, confident, and fearless. But when researchers study experienced speakers, they still find sweaty palms, racing hearts, and that same sympathetic nervous system lighting up. The difference is interpretation. Pros label it as energy or excitement. They have practiced scripts, breathing, and openings, and they trust their systems more than their sensations. In this scenario, the discipline is not in feeling brave. It is in showing up scared because the next action is already decided. You hit record on your first video, not because motivation is high, but because your environment is set, your outline is waiting, and your rule is, when it's 7 p.m, I film, no debate. And this is where everything starts to shift. You do not need to delete fear, you need to design around it. In the next sections, you'll see how to literally schedule fear, build tiny courage reps, and shape your environment so that acting scared becomes almost automatic. Your emotions will protest, your brain will negotiate, and yet you will move. How? That's where we go next. So let's zoom in on the real opponent here. It's not fear. It's not even laziness. It's a tiny, ancient character living inside your skull, your caveman brain. This caveman has a very simple job description. Don't die, don't get rejected by the tribe, don't waste energy, and don't take unnecessary risks. That's it. No vision board, no crush your 2026 goals notebook. Just survival. If it kept you breathing and vaguely comfortable in the short term, it was good. And guess what? This software is still running you today. When you think about starting a YouTube channel, your caveman does not see creativity and impact. It sees public rejection, social humiliation, and potential exile from the tribe. When you consider launching a business, it doesn't see financial freedom. It sees danger, uncertainty, and 100 ways to lose resources. In other words, the things you call goals often look like pure threats to the part of your brain that was built for immediate survival. Going to the gym every day, that is suspiciously similar to wasting precious energy we might need to run from a predator later. Speaking publicly, that is, standing alone in front of the tribe where everyone can judge us at once. Taking financial risks, that is, maybe we can't eat next month. The problem is that your modern ambitions live in the rational, long-term planning parts of your brain, while your fear and resistance live in much older circuits that fire in milliseconds. This is because the brain always prioritizes immediate safety and comfort over abstract future rewards. So when you try to act with discipline, it can literally feel wrong in your body, like you are moving against your own wiring. Here's the most important detail. What we label as discipline or courage is not some heroic override of this caveman. It is the art of designing around him. You shape your environment, your habits, and your default options so that your ancient brain has fewer chances to slam on the brakes. In this scenario, courage is not you waking up every day and wrestling your fear to the ground. Courage is you putting your gym clothes next to the bed, so the first action requires almost no thought. It is scheduling your filming session with a friend, so bailing feels like social loss. It is making the risky business task the only thing open on your laptop while your distractions live in another room. And guess what? When you see it this way, your struggle to be bold and consistent stops looking like a character defect. It becomes a predictable clash between ancient code and modern life. You are not broken. You are running outdated survival software in a 2026 world. Next, we'll turn this from theory into a blueprint, and you'll see exactly how to build systems that let your caveman feel safe while you still move toward the life you actually want. So let's bring this down from ancient survival software to something painfully familiar, a random Tuesday. You tell yourself, tonight I'm going to the gym. You even feel a little spark of motivation at lunch. But as the evening gets closer, your brain starts quietly negotiating. Work was long, you're tired, the weather is not ideal. By the time you touch the front door, the couch suddenly looks like a 5-star resort. In this scenario, nothing dramatic has happened. There is no tiger. There is just a subtle wave of dread, laziness, or vague resistance. And guess what? That feeling is not a character judgment. It is your survival wiring doing its job. The gym means effort, sweat, elevated heart rate, social uncertainty. Your brain tags that as possible threat to comfort and energy and instantly offers safer options: Netflix, your phone, a snack. This is because your brain is obsessed with conserving energy and securing predictable reward. Walking to the gym is uncertain. You might feel awkward, weak, judged, or exhausted. Opening a streaming app is guaranteed comfort. One path is long-term benefit with immediate cost. The other is immediate pleasure with long-term cost. The problem is that your nervous system is biased toward what feels good now, not what builds you over months. The same battle plays out when you sit down to write, study, or work on that project you keep saying is important. You open your laptop with good intentions. Your document is right there, but your hand, almost on autopilot, clicks to TikTok, YouTube, or social media just for a second. 10, 20, 40 minutes disappear. Where did they go? In other words, you just watched your biology in real time. Focused work is cognitively expensive. It burns more energy, demands discipline, and offers delayed reward. Scrolling offers instant novelty, constant little dopamine hits, and zero risk of failure. Your brain is simply choosing the path of least resistance inside the environment you gave it. Here's the most important detail. This tug of war is not you being uniquely weak. It is exactly what we should expect when a fragile pool of willpower tries to overpower a system designed for comfort, safety, and minimal effort. If you rely only on motivation to beat apps built by hundreds of engineers to hijack your attention, biology will win most days. So instead of judging yourself, try this experiment right now. Mentally scan your day. Where does fear, discomfort, or subtle anxiety quietly win? Maybe it is the gym you drive past, the message you never send, the creative idea you never publish, the conversation you always avoid, or the bedtime you constantly push. Those small, normal losses are not random. They are precise coordinates where your survival brain overrules your long-term self. Keep one of those in mind, because next we are going to design around it so that courage stops being a mood and starts becoming the default path your brain slips into automatically. So hold that one sticky place in your life and now zoom out. Because you're not just losing that battle in a vacuum, you're losing it inside a world that expects you to be a gladiator. Modern life quietly demands that you be productive, visible, entrepreneurial, socially bold, emotionally stable, and always on. Your calendar, your inbox, your notifications, they all assume you have infinite courage and discipline on tap. In other words, the default setting of the environment around you is 24/7 performance. Post more, ship more, network more, speak up in meetings, launch the project, grow the audience. If you're not constantly advancing, it feels like you're falling behind. And guess what? Your ancient brain did not sign up for this. Your brain thinks it's still a slightly lazy hunter-gatherer. It was built to walk a few miles, find berries, chat with 20 people it knows for life, then sit by the fire. This is because for almost all of human history, survival meant conserving energy and avoiding unnecessary risk. Now imagine that same brain dropped into a supercomputer world of notifications, metrics, and infinite comparison. Every ping is a possible threat. Every view, count, like count, and comment is a micro-trial. In this scenario, your nervous system is sitting in a village square where the entire planet can watch, judge, and ignore you in real time. Of course, you hesitate to post the video. Of course, you rewrite the email 10 times. Social media pours gasoline on this. The problem is that your brain treats social rejection almost exactly like physical danger. Being exiled from the tribe once meant literal death. So the amygdala still lights up as if a cold comment could push you off a cliff. Your heart races before you hit publish for the same reason it would have raced at the edge of the forest. Exposure feels unsafe. Here's the most important detail. None of this is a moral failure. It is a wiring mismatch. Your survival brain is optimized for a small, slow world, but your environment is fast, loud, and permanently public. You're asking Stone Age code to run Silicon Valley expectations. And then on top of that, we add advice like, just be brave, have more discipline, and stop caring what people think. That is like handing a sticky note to a hurricane. Willpower can override your fear circuitry for a while, especially early in the day, when your energy is high, but by the time you've answered 50 messages, sat through 3 meetings, and scrolled past 100 lives that look more successful than yours, the tank is empty. This is because willpower is a short-term resource and evolution is not. The fear circuits that once kept you alive in the wild do not shut off just because you watched a motivational video. So if the game is rigged at the biological level, what actually works? If more motivation isn't enough, what would it look like to outsmart this wiring instead of fighting it head-on? So if the game is rigged at the biological level, you need someone who has already rewritten the rules. Enter James Clear. In Atomic Habits, he drops a line that quietly destroys half of the self-help industry. You do not rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. Most people believe courage and discipline are about waking up one day and finally feeling fearless and powerful. However, this view is completely misguided. James's point is that your brain does not suddenly become heroic. It simply follows the path that has been rehearsed, cued, and rewarded the most. In other words, your daily systems quietly decide whether you act brave or stay stuck. And guess what? This applies to fear just as much as it applies to productivity. The bravest looking people are almost never the ones with the calmest nervous systems. They are the ones who have built an environment, a schedule, and a set of habits that make scary actions small, predictable, and almost automatic. Think about a surgeon before a high-risk operation. Their heart still races, the amygdala still fires. The difference is that there is a system, checklists, routines, a familiar room, a trained team. The fear is there, but the process is stronger. In this scenario, courage is not a burst of willpower. It is the next step in a script they have run hundreds of times. Here's the most important detail. Real discipline and real courage do not come from force. They come from design, of environment, habits, and identity. When your environment makes the courageous action the closest, easiest option, your brain's love of comfort starts working for you instead of against you. This is because habits slowly migrate tasks from the part of your brain that argues and hesitates into the part that just runs routines. At first, speaking up in a meeting feels like a huge emotional decision. You debate, you sweat, you imagine disaster. But if you have a tiny rule, after my weekly meeting starts, I ask one question, and you repeat it, something shifts. Over time, it becomes less of a moral trial and more like brushing your teeth. The problem is that most people only see the visible act of courage, the speech, the performance, the hard conversation, and they miss the invisible system underneath. They think, I could never do that, without realizing the other person has spent months building a fear ladder, running exposure scripts, and stacking identity-based habits like, I'm the kind of person who does the uncomfortable thing first. So here's where we are heading next. If systems can quietly turn discipline into the default, they can also turn courage into the path of least resistance. You will see how to design your own fear ladders, script your exposure in advance, and wire your identity so that acting scared becomes automatic. And the surprising part is not that it works. The surprising part is what happens to your fear once you stop asking it for permission. If systems can quietly turn discipline into the default, they can also turn courage into the path of least resistance. And guess what? That does not require you to erase fear, fix your personality, or suddenly become the brave type. Most people secretly believe that to live boldly, they first have to kill fear. However, this view is completely misguided. This is because your brain's fear circuitry is survival hardware, not a software app you can uninstall. The amygdala can fire a fear response in about 12 milliseconds, long before your rational mind even knows what is happening. In other words, if you've been waiting for fear to disappear before you act, you have been arguing with biology. So here's the promise of the rest of this video. We are going to dismantle that illusion piece by piece and replace it with a practical, non-judgmental framework. You will not be shamed for procrastination, avoidance, or anxiety. The problem is that those reactions were the most efficient way your brain knew to protect comfort and conserve energy. Hitting snooze on the presentation, avoiding the hard conversation, delaying the business idea. Your nervous system tagged those as threats and chose the least costly path. In this scenario, you are not broken. You are wired for survival in an environment that now demands long-term courage instead of immediate safety. So our roadmap is simple, but not shallow. First, you will understand how fear works in the brain, why your heart races, your thoughts spiral, and your willpower collapses at the exact moment you need it. Then you will hear how that same circuitry quietly hijacks daily decisions, from checking your phone instead of writing, to staying in a job you outgrew years ago. Next, we will reframe fear itself. Instead of treating it as a stop sign, you will start to see it as a training signal, a kind of built-in compass that lights up exactly where your next growth rep is hiding. After that, we will build systems and identities that make courageous action feel normal. Fear ladders, pre-planned, exposure scripts, tiny, scared-on-purpose reps that slowly shift effortful courage into automatic behavior. Along the way, we will expose the hidden mistakes that keep you stuck, relying on motivation spikes and waiting to feel ready, using shame as fuel, and then wondering why your energy collapses, trying to think your way out of fear with more podcasts and more notes, instead of scheduling small, concrete encounters with the thing you are afraid of. And here's the most important detail: you are not aiming to become fearless. You are becoming the person who still feels fear, but acts so consistently that other people start calling you disciplined and courageous anyway. Imagine that version of you 6 months from now, still with a racing heart before the speech, still with butterflies before the risk, but with a calendar full of things you once avoided. That is where we are heading next. That version of you is not fearless. It's just running a different program. To understand how you actually get there, we need to open the hood and look at the machine that's been driving your reactions for your entire life, your fear system. Inside your brain, there's a small, almond-shaped structure called the amygdala. Think of it as your built-in alarm system, sitting there 24/7, scanning your environment for anything that even smells like danger. And guess what? It can trigger a fear response in about 12 milliseconds. That is faster than the part of your brain that thinks, reasons, and plans can even finish the sentence. Wait, what's happening? Most people believe fear is a conscious choice or a sign of weak willpower. However, this view is completely misguided. This is because the amygdala fires first, and your rational prefrontal cortex shows up late to the party, trying to explain what already happened. In other words, your body is already in full alarm mode before your intelligent, disciplined self even gets a vote. Here's the most important detail. Once that alarm goes off, a whole survival cascade starts. Your adrenal glands dump adrenaline into your system. Your heart rate spikes to pump more blood to your muscles. Your breathing becomes fast and shallow to pull in more oxygen. Your muscles tense, your palms sweat. Your stomach flips. None of this is random. Every change is designed to help you either fight, run, or freeze so you can survive an immediate threat. In a jungle, this wiring is perfect. In a meeting, it is less perfect. The problem is that your fear system is heavily biased toward false positives. It would rather mistake a harmless rustle for a tiger than mistake a tiger for a rustle. In this scenario, overreacting keeps you alive, underreacting gets you removed from the gene pool, so your brain leans hard toward better safe than sorry, even if it costs you comfort, energy, and social ease. This is why a modern, non-lethal risk can feel like standing on the edge of a cliff. You hover over the send button on a difficult email, and suddenly your chest tightens like you're about to be attacked. You consider speaking up in a group, and your heart starts pounding as if someone just jumped out from behind a tree. Your survival wiring does not understand awkward versus actually dangerous. It only understands uncertain and potential loss. So when you feel that surge of fear before posting, pitching, or asking, it is not proof that you are broken, weak, or undisciplined. It is proof that your ancient survival software is mislabeling social risk as physical danger. The same system that once helped your ancestors avoid cliffs now tries to help you avoid criticism. The real question is not, hey, how do I delete this fear? It is, how do I work with a brain that reacts in 12 milliseconds? In the next part, we will turn this overactive alarm into a training signal and show you how to act scared on purpose until courage starts to feel almost automatic. So when that alarm goes off in 12 milliseconds, it is not random, it is ancient. For most of human history, your greatest threat was not a bad comment section. It was being pushed to the edge of the tribe. In other words, if the group judged you as useless, annoying, or dangerous, your chances of survival dropped fast. No tribe meant no shared fire, no protection at night, no one to help when you were sick. One serious conflict with the wrong person could mean fewer people willing to share food in a famine. Humiliation was not just embarrassing, it was data about whether you would still be fed next winter. And guess what? Your brain still runs that code. This is because your nervous system did not get a software update when social media arrived. It still treats social threats as if they could end in exile. A harsh comment feels like a mini-ban from the village. An awkward silence in a meeting feels like the elders turning their backs on you. The problem is that your actual environment has changed, but your internal alarm has not. Look at how this shows up today. You want to post online for the first time. Rationally, it is just pixels on a screen, but your heart rate jumps, your palms sweat. You rewrite the caption 12 times. Your brain is not thinking about creativity or long-term growth. It is scanning for signs that this post will get you laughed at, ignored, or attacked. Same thing when you think about starting a channel. On paper, it is a side project. Inside your skull, it is a public ritual where the entire tribe can watch you fail in real time. In this scenario, your amygdala does not see content strategy. It sees you standing alone in the center of the camp while everyone else whispers. You pitch an idea at work, or you ask for a raise. The risk is mostly professional. Yet your body reacts like you just stepped outside the cave without a weapon. Tight chest, racing thoughts, urge to stay quiet. Your brain is trying to protect status because for thousands of years, status was linked directly to survival. Here's the most important detail. Your brain is not optimized for happiness, self-expression, or fulfillment. It is optimized for do not die and do not get kicked out. That is why it overreacts to visibility, risk, and any move that might attract judgment. It is choosing immediate safety over long-term potential. When you see this mismatch clearly, fear stops feeling so personal. You are not broken, you are running outdated survival software in a modern world. The real work now is to give that software new instructions. In the next section, we will turn these ancient alarms into a training ground and show you how to step into the spotlight even while every circuit in your brain is screaming hide. So now that you know your fear is ancient survival software, we have to talk about the second half of that code, comfort. Your brain is not only trying to keep you alive, it is trying to keep you on the couch. Over millions of years, survival meant one thing very clearly: do not waste energy. Food was rare, calories were precious, and walking 10 extra miles for no reason could literally kill you in winter. In other words, your brain evolved to be a ruthless accountant of effort. If something looks like unnecessary exertion, it quietly files it under maybe later, and nudges you back toward rest, routine, and whatever you already know. This is because every act of discipline you attempt today, studying, training, speaking up, still runs through that ancient filter. Start a side project after work. That is extra energy with no guaranteed reward. Speak up in a meeting. That is social risk plus mental effort. Your brain does the math and whispers, "Why not just stay where we are? We are not dead here." It feels like procrastination. Biologically, it is energy conservation. Now add another layer, cognitive ease. Your brain loves what is familiar, simple, and immediately rewarding. Scrolling your phone is easy. Swipe, tap, instant novelty, zero stakes. Studying for an exam is the opposite. Complex, uncertain, and the reward is weeks away. The problem is that your nervous system weighs now much more heavily than later. So, even if your long-term goals are important, the immediate comfort wins most battles by default. And guess what? When something is both scary and effortful, the bias doubles. Public speaking, launching a channel, changing careers, these are not just hard, they feel dangerous. In this scenario, your fear circuits shout threat, while your energy accountant mutters too expensive. Two powerful systems, one clear message: avoid. Look at your own day. Staying silent in a meeting costs nothing right now. Speaking up costs social fear, preparation, and attention. Staying in your current job is predictable. Starting a side project means late nights, learning new skills, risking failure. Opening a streaming app after work is one thumb movement. Opening a textbook means finding it, sitting up, focusing, tolerating boredom. Your environment makes the easy option literally closer, faster, and more obvious. So if courage always requires climbing the psychological mountain, of course you feel like you have no willpower. It is not that you are weak. It is that the courageous path is uphill in both fear and effort, while the comfortable path is a slide coated in instant reward. Here's the most important detail. You cannot delete your brain's love of comfort, but you can redirect it. The people who seem naturally brave are often just those who have quietly redesigned their environment so that the courageous action is the path of least resistance. The question is not, how do I become fearless, but how do I make the brave choice the easier one to start? Because in the next section, we are going to do exactly that. And once you see how, your fear will stop being the wall and start becoming the doorway. So now that you know courage can be designed into your environment, we have to address the uncomfortable truth. You still cannot outthink your fear. Most people believe that if they just had stronger willpower or better self-talk, they could finally shut fear off. However, this view is completely misguided. This is because fear is not a polite thought that shows up to debate you. It is a survival alarm that starts in your body and your emotional brain long before your rational brain even logs in. Your amygdala can fire a fear response in a few milliseconds. Heart rate jumps, muscles tense, breathing shifts. In other words, your body has already voted "this is dangerous" before you finish the sentence. "I'm going to give a presentation." Only after that does your thinking brain arrive and say, "Ah, I see, we are panicking. Let me explain why." And guess what? Once the fear is already on, your brain becomes very creative at protecting you from the scary thing. The problem is that it does this by rationalizing avoidance. Suddenly, not sending the email today becomes strategic timing. Not speaking up becomes waiting for the right moment. Your brain invents smart-sounding reasons that match what your body already decided. Stay safe, conserve energy, return to comfort. In this scenario, when you stand there telling yourself, "Do not be scared, this is fine, stop it," you are basically giving a PowerPoint presentation to the wrong audience. You are talking to the logical part, while the emotional part is downstairs pulling the fire alarm. No wonder it feels like your motivation disappears the moment you step toward the thing you want. Here's the most important detail. Insight does not rewire fear. Repetition does. You can watch 100 videos about public speaking and still shake when you open your mouth the first time. But if you record yourself talking to a camera 10 days in a row, then speak to one friend, then 3 colleagues, your brain quietly updates its threat map. We did this, we survived. No tiger. Maybe this is not lethal. This is the discipline side of courage. Tiny, repeated exposures. Not heroic, once-in-a-lifetime efforts, but small, controlled actions in the presence of fear. You treat fear less like a stop sign and more like a training signal. Your job is not to feel ready. Your job is to give your brain new data. And we are not going to throw you into the deep end. In the next sections, you will learn how to design these exposures like a staircase instead of a cliff, so each step feels challenging but manageable. Step by step, your environment, your actions, and your identity start teaching your brain a new story about what is actually dangerous and what is simply the next level. So instead of a cliff, think of what you're about to build as a gym, because fear was never meant to be a stop sign. It was meant to be a training signal. Most people believe that when fear shows up, it means turn back, danger, something is wrong. However, this view is completely misguided. In the modern world, your brain still uses ancient survival wiring to interpret anything uncertain as a threat to comfort, energy, and control. Public speaking, launching a project, having a hard conversation, none of these will kill you. But your amygdala reacts as if they might, and guess what? This is not a metaphor. The amygdala can trigger a fear response in just a few milliseconds, long before your rational brain has any chance to vote. In other words, by the time you are thinking, "Why am I so nervous?" your survival system has already slammed the alarm button. The problem is that we keep treating that alarm as a red light, instead of what it really is, a yellow light that says, slow down, pay attention, growth ahead. Here's the most important detail. Fear is incredibly trainable. Studies on exposure therapy show that when people face a feared situation repeatedly, in a controlled way, the brain literally rewires. The same spider, the same airplane, the same stage. At first, the fear response spikes. But with each repetition, the alarm gets a little quieter. The brain starts to update its prediction from "I might die" to "apparently I survived this." This is because your nervous system learns from experience, not from arguments. You can tell yourself all day that recording a video is safe, but until your body has gone through it a few times, your brain will still treat it like a threat. In this scenario, discipline is not about deleting fear. It is about giving your brain enough safe repetitions that fear no longer gets to drive the car. So here is the reframe. Fear is a training signal. When you feel it, your brain is highlighting the exact edge of your comfort zone, the border between who you are today and who you could become. You can interpret that signal in 2 ways. I feel scared, so I shouldn't do this. Or, I feel scared, so this is my next rep in becoming who I want to be. Same heartbeat, different meaning, completely different life. Start testing this in your day. Notice the micro moments where you tense up. Sending the email, asking a question in a meeting, posting the thing you actually care about. Instead of labeling those as failures or warnings, quietly tag them as potential training reps. Oh, there's the signal. This is where I train. It will still feel uncomfortable at first, but repetition is how every other habit in your life became automatic. In the next section, we'll take this even further and show you how to design those fear reps like a workout plan, so courage becomes less about heroic bursts of willpower and more about a system you can actually trust. Those fear reps don't just live in the big, dramatic moments. They hide in the tiny, boring ones that quietly decide who you become. Think about an average workday. You're in a meeting, you have an idea, your heart rate ticks up a little. The amygdala fires a tiny survival warning. What if this sounds stupid? So you swallow the thought and stay silent. No disaster happens. You even feel a little relief. Your brain files that away as a successful strategy. Silence equals safety. Safety equals comfort. In other words, that one choice was not neutral. It was a micro message to yourself. I'm the kind of person who backs off when I'm uncomfortable. Do that twice a week for a year, and it doesn't feel like a decision anymore. It feels like your personality. Same thing when you don't post that draft you've rewritten 12 times. Your brain is running a very old program. Avoid rejection, protect energy, stick to what is predictable. Hitting save instead of publish gives you an immediate reward. No risk, no judgment, no effort spike. And guess what? The problem is that your brain loves immediate rewards, so it quietly tags you as the person who doesn't ship, or the hard conversation you keep postponing. You know it would clean up tension with your partner or your boss, but every time you imagine it, your chest tightens, your stomach flips, and your nervous system says, danger. You decide to do it later. Relief again. Tiny dopamine hit. Your discipline doesn't fail in that moment. It just gets outvoted by an environment designed for comfort. Even the alarm clock is part of this identity story. The night before, you are all about long-term goals. Tomorrow, I'm going to the gym. In the morning, your half-asleep brain is only tracking one metric: energy conservation. Snooze becomes a micro-avoidance that whispers, I'm the person who means well but doesn't follow through. One morning is nothing. 50 mornings is a self-image, but here's the most important detail. This mechanism works in both directions. Send the email you're scared to send. Do the first rep at the gym, even if you leave after 5 minutes. Say one sentence in the meeting, even if your voice shakes. In this scenario, each tiny action is a vote for a different identity. I'm the kind of person who acts scared but still acts. This is because habits are not just what you do. They are how your brain predicts who you are. Repeated, actions become the easiest path, and over time that path feels natural, expected, almost automatic. Courage stops feeling like a heroic burst of willpower and starts feeling like just what I do on Tuesdays. So here's your experiment. Identify one recurring micro moment where fear usually wins. The meeting, the publish button, the alarm, the conversation. Now imagine if, for the next 30 days, you inserted a 10-second courageous action right there. What would shift in your identity if that tiny fork in the road started pointing the other way? In the next section, we'll turn that 10-second move into a repeatable blueprint, so you're not relying on random motivation, but on a system that makes those courageous micro moments almost inevitable. That 10-second move you imagined? Here's the twist. By the time you decide to do it, your brain has already voted. This is not just philosophy. In classic experiments by Benjamin Libet and later researchers, they found something strange. Your brain shows activity preparing to move a fraction of a second before you report the conscious intention to move. In other words, the neural yes or no often happens before the story in your head about choosing. Now, connect this to fear. You think you're calmly weighing, should I go to the gym or scroll for a bit? But milliseconds earlier, your survival wiring already ran the calculation. Gym equals effort, uncertainty, maybe social discomfort. Couch equals comfort, predictable reward, zero risk. And guess what? That ancient software quietly pushes a wave of avoidance before you even feel like you're making a choice. This is because the brain is obsessed with conserving energy and avoiding immediate threat. The problem is that your long-term goals live in the slow, reflective part of the brain, while fear and avoidance live in the fast, automatic part. By the time your thoughtful side wakes up, the quick side has already cued excuses. It's late, you're tired, start tomorrow. It feels like a rational decision. It's mostly pre-programmed. So if your brain is jumping first, how do you ever stand a chance? You stop negotiating in the moment. You pre-decide. Psychologists call this an implementation intention, an if-then plan that you design when you're calm, and your brain executes when you're scared. If it's 6 p.m. and I'm home, then I put on my shoes and walk to the gym entrance. No debate about motivation. No internal courtroom drama. In this scenario, you're not relying on willpower. You're using the brain's automatic machinery on purpose. You attach your courageous action to a specific cue in your environment and let the script run. It's like leaving instructions for your future, slightly panicking self. When fear shows up here, do this exact tiny move. And here's the most important detail, because so much of your behavior is automatic. The real leverage is not in heroic self-control. It's in designing triggers, environments, and default options ahead of time. Shoes by the door, calendar block that says call the client, with the number already in the event. Camera on the desk, not in the drawer. You reduce friction for courage and increase friction for avoidance. You don't wait to feel brave. You arrange your world so that the next tiny act of bravery is the easiest, most obvious thing to do. In the next part, we're going to take this even further. You'll see how to build a fear ladder and exposure scripts that turn those big, intimidating goals into pre-scheduled, bite-sized steps your brain can't easily escape from. And the surprising part is not just that this works, it's what starts happening to your identity when fear is no longer a debate, but a calendar invite. What does life look like when even your fear is on a schedule? What does life look like when even your fear is on a schedule? It looks like this strange, almost unfair advantage where other people think you're so brave. And you know the truth is far less romantic. You didn't become fearless, you just stopped misdiagnosing the enemy. Most people believe their problem is weak willpower, a fragile character, or that they're just not a courageous person. However, this view is completely misguided. Your real problem is a design conflict. In other words, your brain and your environment are playing for one team, and your long-term life goals are stuck playing solo on the other. Here's the most important detail. Your brain's default goal is simple: survival and feeling good now. It wants comfort, predictable reward, and the lowest possible effort. Your conscious goal, the one you write in journals and vision boards, is to grow, create, and invest in a future that does not exist yet. These are not the same game. This is because evolution never optimized you for writing a book, starting a business, or posting your first scary video. It optimized you for not dying before sunset. In this scenario, every time you back out of a hard conversation, cancel the gym, or procrastinate on that application, you usually blame your willpower. I'm weak, I'm lazy, I'm a coward. And guess what? That misdiagnosis is more damaging than the behavior itself. It builds quiet self-hate, chronic frustration, and burnout. You start to believe there's a special category of human called brave people, and you're just not in it. The problem is that you're asking willpower to fight evolution and your environment at the same time. That is like sending a paper sword into a gunfight. Your phone is designed to give you immediate dopamine. Your couch is perfectly shaped for your spine. Your brain looks at that scary email and thinks, unknown outcome, possible rejection, energy cost high, and then looks at YouTube and thinks, instant reward, zero risk. Which one wins, honestly? So when you bail on the presentation, when you close the project file and open a game instead, that is not proof you lack courage. It's a predictable outcome of a system where fear plus comfort plus clever technology are all aligned on one side, and your goal is stranded on the other. The behavior makes sense. The story you tell about it does not. Once you see this, courage stops being a moral test and becomes a design project. We are not going to beg your brain for more motivation. We are going to redesign your relationship with fear, your environment, and even your identity so that acting scared takes less energy than staying stuck. In the next sections, we'll treat your life like a lab. You'll set up experiments that make the courageous choice obvious, attractive, and automatic until brave is just who you keep accidentally proving you are. So here's the principle that quietly changes everything. When fear shows up, motivation is overrated. Environment beats willpower. The people who look naturally brave are usually just people who design their surroundings, so courage is the easiest option, not the most heroic. Most of us do the opposite. You wait until the moment you have to speak up, send the message, walk on stage, and then you hope you'll suddenly feel bold. The problem is that in that exact moment, you're asking your tired, emotional brain to win a fight against its own survival wiring. And guess what? That wiring has been practicing for thousands of years. Your motivation has been practicing for about 3 YouTube videos. This is because fear is fast. The amygdala can hit the alarm in a few milliseconds, long before your rational brain can give a TED talk about your goals. In other words, by the time you're trying to feel courageous, your body is already halfway into threat mode, heart racing, shallow breath, tunnel vision. In this scenario, your brain is not thinking about your long-term growth. It is thinking, how do we get back to comfort right now? When you're stressed, low on sleep, or drained from the day, this gets even worse. The brain defaults to autopilot and the path of least resistance. That path is almost never do the scary, meaningful thing. It is check your phone, delay the email, reschedule the call, watch one more video. Not because you're weak, but because your survival system is trying to conserve energy and avoid perceived danger. So you do not need more hype. You need better architecture. You design your environment so that by the time fear wakes up, the first courageous step is already in motion. For example, you pre-commit publicly. You tell a friend, I'm sending that pitch by 10 a.m., I'll text you a screenshot. Now avoiding it is more uncomfortable than doing it. You schedule scary tasks early in the day when your brain still has some clean energy and your discipline has not been eroded by 100 tiny decisions. You remove easy escape routes. You leave your phone in another room before you open your laptop to apply for the job. You close all tabs except the application form. You literally make the first step tiny and obvious. Write the subject line, draft one sentence, hit record for 30 seconds. Here's the most important detail. Your room, your phone, your calendar, and your social circle are not neutral. They are either amplifying your fear or quietly supporting your courage. A messy desk, constant notifications, friends who mock your attempts, these all make avoidance the default. A clear workspace, do not disturb mode, a friend waiting for your I did it text. These make action feel inevitable. In the next section, we'll turn this into a practical fear layout for your life, so your environment pushes you forward even on the days you feel like running. So let's interrupt this for a moment. You've been listening, nodding, maybe recognizing yourself in these patterns. But your brain can happily watch an entire video about courage without taking a single courageous action. In other words, your fear wiring gets a free lecture and 0 consequences. So here's the pattern interrupt. Imagine a 7-day fear training experiment. Not a course, not a life makeover, just 1 week where you treat fear like a muscle in the gym instead of a judge in your head. And guess what? You can actually start this the moment this video ends. Here's the most important detail. This is training, not testing. You are not trying to prove that you are brave. You are simply teaching your brain day by day, we can feel this and survive. This is because your amygdala fires in milliseconds to protect survival, but it calms down when it learns through repetition that the danger was discomfort, not death. So, day 1, make it almost laughably small. 10 seconds of cold water at the end of your shower. A 30-second voice note where you speak your honest opinion and send it to a close friend. A short message to someone you respect, asking a simple question or thanking them for their work. The problem is that most people start with a huge, heroic challenge. Then their fear spikes, they freeze, and their brain concludes, "See, we were right to avoid this." In this scenario, you are doing the opposite. You are shrinking the action until your brain's alarm system can tolerate it. You feel the spike, you breathe, you stay. 10 seconds later, nothing terrible happened. That tiny win is your reward. Your nervous system just collected evidence that fear can rise and fall without controlling you. Over 7 days, you gradually nudge the difficulty, but you keep the same rule: low stakes, short duration, clear edges. Send a slightly more vulnerable message. Share a small piece of work publicly. Speak up once in a meeting. Each rep is like habit stacking for courage. After fear shows up, you do one pre-decided action. And remember, this is not about using willpower to crush yourself. It is about designing an environment where courage is easier than avoidance. Maybe you tell a friend your 7-day plan, so social pressure becomes your safety rail. Maybe you write each day's fear rep on a sticky note and put it on your laptop so your brain cannot forget. We will build the full fear ladder later, step by step, from tiny discomforts all the way up to the big things that scare you most: public speaking, launching a project, social risk. For now, stay with the question. For the next 7 days, what is the smallest fear you are willing to train with, not run from? So let's finally build that thing I keep hinting at: your fear ladder. A fear ladder is simply a staircase made of small, specific actions that all point toward one scary goal, but start almost embarrassingly small. Most people believe courage appears in one dramatic leap onto the big stage. However, this view is completely misguided. In other words, what looks like a leap from the outside is usually 100 tiny, invisible steps on the inside. Take public speaking. Your brain treats stand on a stage and talk to 200 people like a survival threat. Heart racing, palms sweating, tunnel vision. The problem is that you keep comparing where you are now to that final boss level. So of course it feels impossible. Instead, we build rungs. First rung, you talk to your phone camera alone for 2 minutes, no posting, just saving the file. You repeat that until it feels boring. Second rung, you send a 60-second voice note or video to one trusted friend. Again, you repeat until your brain stops screaming. Third rung, you share a short idea in a meeting or with a small group of 3. Fourth rung, you volunteer to introduce someone at a small event. Fifth rung, you give a 5-minute talk to a larger audience. Each rung is just enough to nudge your comfort zone, not so much that your nervous system hits the panic button. And guess what? This is not motivational poetry. This is exposure therapy in action. This is because your amygdala, the fear center of your brain, learns through repeated, controlled exposure. When you step into a feared situation and nothing terrible happens, your brain quietly updates its survival code. Oh, we can survive this. Do that enough times, and your fear response drops from a 10 to a 3. Here's the most important detail. You do not wait to feel ready for each rung. You schedule it. You treat it like discipline reps in the gym. In this scenario, courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to show up for the next tiny exposure, even when your motivation is low and your body wants comfort. So pick one fear: posting your work online, selling your service, networking at events, performing on camera. Now on paper, brainstorm 5 to 10 rungs from easiest to hardest, like someone's post might be rung 1, comment something thoughtful might be rung 2, share a short post could be rung 3. Your only rule: the first rung should feel almost too easy, the top rung should feel like a stretch, and everything in between should be a clear, concrete action. Over time, this is how fearless people are made, not by deleting fear, but by normalizing it through hundreds of small, scheduled encounters. From the outside, it looks like they were born brave. On the inside, it is just repetition, design, and a brain that has been trained to stay online under stress. But there is one more twist your brain will use to sabotage this ladder, even when you have it perfectly planned. It will try to convince you that feeling fear means you are not ready. Most people believe that if they still feel terrified, they have not done enough practice, or they are simply not the brave type. However, this view is completely misguided. Your brain is running a very old survival program, and here's the most important detail. That program cannot tell the difference between "I am in danger" and "I am about to do something important." This is because the same sympathetic nervous system fires in both cases: heart rate up, breathing shallow, hands a bit shaky. Whether you are about to crash your car or about to walk on stage, the body sends almost identical signals. In other words, physiologically, fear and excitement are twins wearing different name tags. Researchers call what you do with those signals cognitive reappraisal. One famous set of studies showed that when people simply said to themselves, "I am excited," instead of "I'm anxious," before a speech or a test, their performance actually improved. Nothing changed in their pulse or adrenaline. The only thing that changed was the story they told about that energy. And guess what? You can do the same in your daily life. You open your laptop to present to your team, your heart starts pounding, and your brain whispers, "This is bad, this is danger." In this scenario, you interrupt and say, "My body is giving me energy to do something that matters." Same sensations, new meaning. Suddenly the rush becomes a resource instead of a red flag. The problem is that in the heat of the moment, you will not remember this reframe by accident. Your brain will default to survival mode and chase comfort. So you need a tiny bit of discipline in advance, a plan that is already written when fear shows up. Psychologists call these plans implementation intentions. They follow a very simple formula. If X happens, then I will do Y. For example, if I feel my heart racing before I hit publish, then I will say out loud, "This is excitement, not danger," or then press send anyway. Or if my voice starts to shake before I speak, then I will smile, take one slow breath, and tell myself, "This energy is my brain powering up." You are not negotiating with motivation in the moment. You are executing a preloaded script. These cognitive tricks do not erase fear. They will not suddenly make your amygdala retire and move to the beach. What they do is soften the edge just enough for your rational brain to stay online. That tiny gap is where choice lives. That is where discipline can override the immediate impulse to back away and choose the long-term reward instead. In the next part, we will take this even further and turn these private scripts into an identity, so that acting with a racing heart becomes who you are, not just what you occasionally manage to do. That tiny gap where choice lives gets even more powerful when you make fear predictable. The most disciplined people you know are not calm all the time. They just know exactly when they're going to do the scary thing. This is because your brain hates ambiguity. Vague fear like "I should post more" or "I need to start that business" feels endless, so your nervous system stays on high alert. In other words, your amygdala is bracing for an attack that could come at any moment. But when you say, Thursday 3 p.m., I hit upload, the fear has a container. It has a start and an end. Here's the most important detail. Disciplined people don't wait to feel brave. They schedule their panic. The sales call is at 10:15. The pitch deck goes out on Tuesday. The first YouTube video goes live next Sunday at noon. Once it is in the calendar, it moves from maybe to appointment. The same way a dentist visit is not up for negotiation every time you wake up. The problem is that most of us keep fear tasks floating in mental space. I'll record when I have motivation. I'll go to the gym when I have energy. Your brain hears that and thinks, perfect, that means never. And guess what? It will happily protect your comfort by serving you excuses on a silver platter. Scheduling fear removes the daily debate. When the time comes, you are not asking, do I feel ready? You are asking, what was I supposed to do now? That tiny language shift matters. It moves the decision from willpower to routine, from emotional weather to a simple instruction. But scheduling alone is not enough. You pair it with environment design, so the leap is smaller. In this scenario, you don't just plan, go to the gym at 7 a.m. You lay out your clothes, fill your water bottle, and put your shoes by the door the night before. If you're making a scary phone call, you write a short script and keep the number already pulled up. If you're filming, you set up the camera, light, and tripod in advance. Maybe even pre-write your video title and captions. Now your brain wakes up to a world where the path of least resistance is toward the fear, not away from it. Entrepreneurs do this all the time when they are smart. Instead of launching my life's work, they put a tiny test offer on the calendar. On the 15th, I'll post a simple pre-sale page and email 5 people. It is framed as an experiment, not a verdict on their worth. Fear is still there, but the stakes feel more like a science project than a survival threat. So this week, do not wait for courage to knock. Choose one fear-based task, one call, one pitch, one video, one gym session, and give it an exact time, place, and duration. Decide now, on Wednesday at 6 p.m. at my desk for 30 minutes, I will do this. When you do that, you're not just planning an action, you're quietly training your identity for what comes next, becoming the kind of person who acts on schedule even when scared. That decision you just made, the exact time, place, and duration, is not just a calendar event. It is an identity rehearsal. You're teaching your brain, I'm the kind of person who shows up when I say I will, even when my stomach is doing backflips. Most people think courage is an outcome. One day I'll give a TED talk, one day I'll start that business. However, this view is completely misguided. The problem is that outcomes live in the future, while your brain only experiences the present. In other words, TED Talk is abstract, but my heart is racing right now is very real. Identity is the bridge between those two worlds. Identity-based habits flip the script from I want that result to I am this kind of person. Instead of chasing, I want to be a confident speaker, you shift to I'm the kind of person who speaks up even when nervous. This is because the brain loves consistency. When you claim an identity, it quietly tries to align your behavior to match it, to save energy and avoid internal conflict. And guess what? Every small, courageous action you take is a vote for that identity. One awkward question in a meeting, one video recorded while your voice shakes, one email sent to someone who intimidates you. None of these moments look heroic from the outside. But inside, you are slowly overpowering the old story of I'm just anxious, I'm not brave, I can't handle pressure. In this scenario, repetition is your secret weapon. Here's the most important detail. The identity you're building is not I am fearless. That would be a lie. The identity is I act scared. I do hard things in small doses. I show up even when my voice shakes. Notice how these statements respect your biology. They don't demand that the amygdala stop firing. They just decide what you do after it fires. So the next time fear shows up, you don't have to negotiate for hours. You simply ask, what would this version of me do? The person who acts scared still feels the adrenaline, still hears the brain whisper, stay safe, stay small, stay comfortable. But they've practiced this micro move, feel it, name it, take the next tiny step anyway. Over time, this reduces the effort required because your environment, your routines, and your self-image are all pointed in the same long-term direction. At a certain point, decisions get easier. You're not debating whether you're brave enough. You're following the script of who you already are. Motivation becomes a bonus, not a requirement. Discipline stops looking like a heroic burst and starts feeling like Tuesday. But an identity on its own is fragile. If your systems and environment don't support it, stress will knock it over. In the next section, we'll connect this new identity to long-term systems, so courage stops being a moment of hype and quietly turns into your default setting. So now you've got this identity. I'm the kind of person who acts even when I'm scared. But if that identity has to argue with your feelings every single time, you will lose on the days you are tired, stressed, or low on motivation. The people who look brave from the outside are usually not negotiating with themselves in the moment. They've built systems that quietly remove the debate. In other words, they don't wait to feel courageous. They schedule courage. Let's start with routines. A routine is just a pre-decided script that your brain can follow without burning extra energy. This is because once a sequence is familiar, your nervous system stops treating it as a new, risky situation. So you might have a fixed pre-talk ritual. 5 minutes of breathing, reviewing 3 bullet points, 1 glass of water, then you walk on stage. No drama, just the sequence. Same with creating. You sit down, open your laptop, follow your standard upload workflow. Import footage, rough cut, title, thumbnail, description, publish. The problem is that if you leave any of those steps to whenever I feel like it, your brain will gladly suggest a more comfortable option. A routine makes the courageous action feel like brushing your teeth. Not exciting, just what happens next. You can even schedule a weekly fear hour where you batch scary tasks. For 60 minutes every Thursday, you send the pitch, make the uncomfortable phone call, submit the application. In this scenario, fear is not a stop sign. It's the category of work for that time block. Now, checklists. Checklist is discipline on paper. When fear is loud, thinking clearly is hard. So, you offload the thinking. Step 1, put on gym clothes. Step 2, walk out the door. Step 3, scan membership card. Step 4, 5-minute warm-up. You just follow the list even when your brain is protesting like a dramatic actor who suddenly doesn't feel inspired today. And guess what? Pilots, surgeons, and elite teams use checklists not because they are weak, but because they respect how unreliable the human brain can be under pressure. Then we add constraints. Limit decision windows. You have 30 seconds after the alarm to get out of bed, or you owe your friend $20. Use timers, 10 minutes to start the script. Then you're allowed to quit if it is truly awful. Commit publicly so backing out becomes more painful, socially and emotionally, than following through. Here's the most important detail. With consistent repetition, these systems slowly move the task from effortful control to automatic behavior. Research on exposure shows that the more often you enter a feared situation on purpose, the less emotionally loaded it becomes. Your amygdala learns, oh, we survive this. So design one simple system around a recurring fear. Maybe a morning routine that makes going to the gym almost inevitable, or a nightly project power down ritual that ensures you touch your long-term goal before you touch your phone. In the next section, we'll zoom in on how to gradually raise the difficulty of these reps so your courage scales up without your fear taking over the steering wheel. So you build that simple system around a recurring fear. And for a while it works. Things feel lighter. You start thinking, maybe I'm finally past this. And then out of nowhere, the fear slams back in. Your heart races, your brain screams out, abort mission. And you wonder if all that progress was just an illusion. Most people interpret this as failure. However, this view is completely misguided from your brain's perspective. A surge of fear after progress is not a bug. It is a feature. This is because every time you move to a new level, bigger audience, higher stakes, more visibility, you're stepping into unfamiliar territory. In other words, your ancient survival wiring is just retesting the alarm system. Are we sure this is safe? So yes, you will have days when you skip the gym, bail on the presentation, or close the laptop instead of working on the project. The problem is that we treat these moments like verdicts on our identity. I knew it, I'm not courageous, I'm not disciplined. But a setback is not a personality test, it is a data point. In this scenario, your job is not to confess your sins. Your job is to run a tiny experiment review. Here's the most important detail. You do not need a complicated therapy session for this. You need a 30-second script. After a setback, ask yourself 3 questions. First, what triggered this? Was it a comment, a memory, the clock, hitting 8 p.m.? Second, what did my environment look like? Was your phone right next to you? Was YouTube open? Were you exhausted and hungry? Third, what tiny tweak can I make so next time it's 1% easier to act? Maybe you schedule the scary call earlier in the day, or you do the first 2 minutes of work in a different room. And guess what? That micro review is courage, not the movie version where you feel fearless and heroic, but the real version where you feel shaky and still turn back toward the thing you avoided. Courage is not a permanent state you unlock. It is a practice. Just like muscles, your fear circuits and your discipline circuits adapt to repetition, not inspiration. Think about exposure therapy. Research shows that when people repeatedly face a feared situation in controlled doses, the amygdala gradually calms down. The fear response fires quickly, within milliseconds, but the brain learns, oh, we survived this last time. Each rep is a vote for a new identity. I am the person who acts scared. You are not outrunning fear. You are walking with it so often that the route becomes familiar. In the next section, we're going to zoom out and turn all of this, fear spikes, systems, tiny reviews, into a simple mental model you can remember under stress and a concrete next step you can take today, even if your hands are shaking while you take it. So let's zoom out. If you remember nothing else from this entire video, remember this. Fear is not a bug to delete. It is survival wiring. It is your amygdala doing its job in about 12 milliseconds, long before your rational brain even loads. Most people believe the goal is to finally stop being scared. However, this view is completely misguided. In other words, the goal was never to erase fear. It was to stop letting a caveman brain run your modern life. Your brain still thinks in terms of lions, cliffs, and tribes. You're thinking in terms of careers, relationships, and long-term projects. And guess what? That mismatch is why you feel broken when you hesitate. You are not broken. You are running ancient survival software in a very different environment. Here's the most important detail. We reframed fear from a stop sign into a training signal. That spike in your chest before you speak up, hit publish, or ask for feedback is data. It is your nervous system saying, this matters, pay attention. In this scenario, courage is not the absence of that signal. Courage is what you do while the signal is blaring. This is because your brain cares about comfort, energy conservation, and immediate safety. You care about growth, meaning, and long-term impact. The problem is that when those collide, Fear wins by default unless you redesign the situation. So we brought in design. Instead of wrestling with motivation and willpower, you built an environment that makes tiny acts of courage easier. The message drafted the night before, the camera left on, the desk, the meeting already scheduled. You created fear ladders, not give a TED talk, but talk to the camera alone, then share with one friend, then present to 3 co-workers. Each rung is a small, deliberate rep. We also used cognitive reappraisal. Same heartbeat, same sweaty palms, new label. This is excitement, this is my body giving me fuel. Research shows that this simple shift can boost performance under stress because your brain stops interpreting arousal as danger and starts reading it as readiness. Then we went deeper into identity. You are not becoming fearless, you are becoming the person who acts scared on purpose, repeatedly. In controlled 2-minute doses, over time, those votes accumulate. Your brain quietly updates. I am the kind of person who does hard things while afraid. The emotional payoff of all this, less shame, less self-judgment, more clarity. You stop asking, what's wrong with me? And start asking, what's my next tiny rep? That shift alone can return so much wasted energy. So here's your challenge this week. Do not try to overhaul your life. Choose one idea from this video. Maybe it's building a 3-step fear ladder. Maybe it's relabeling nerves as excitement. Maybe it's one environment tweak that makes the courageous action the easiest option. Then run tiny, consistent reps. 1 email, 1 message, 1 uncomfortable conversation. Because discipline with fear works the same way as every other habit. Small, repeated actions beat one dramatic burst of bravery every single time. In the next section, we're going to compress all of this into a simple, 1-page mental model you can literally picture in your head the moment fear shows up. So you never have to improvise courage from scratch again. So let's turn all of this from theory into something your brain can actually feel this week. Not someday, not when you feel ready. This is your first real courage rep. Here's the most important detail. I do not want you to overhaul your life. I want you to pick one fear. One situation that is slightly uncomfortable, but clearly survivable. If public speaking terrifies you, maybe your 5 minutes is recording a voice note on your phone, talking as if you're on stage. If conflict makes your stomach drop, maybe it's drafting the first 2 sentences of a hard message. In other words, you are not hunting dragons, you are scheduling a 5-minute walk with a lizard. So here is your assignment. Before this video ends, decide what is the fear and what is the exact 5-minute exposure you will do this week. Put it on your calendar like any other appointment. This is because your brain respects what is scheduled far more than what is vaguely important. Make it specific. Tuesday, 7:30 p.m. Sit at the piano and play while feeling nervous. Thursday at lunch, speak up once in the meeting, even if your voice shakes. Now, scroll down and put it in the comments. Right. My fear is kickstones and my 5-minute action is stones. The problem is that when fear stays private, it stays powerful. When you name it publicly, you create accountability and social proof. Other people will see your comment and think, if they can do that, maybe I can do mine. And guess what? You'll come back in 7 days and reply to your own comment with what actually happened. That little loop is exposure, reflection, and reward. Your brain loves that. If you want to go further, subscribe and stay close. We're building a longer courage challenge here. Each new video will add 1 more rung to your fear ladder, 1 new, slightly uncomfortable action that costs a bit of energy now, but pays off in long-term freedom. In this scenario, discipline is not gritting your teeth forever. It's designing an environment where the next courageous step is obvious, easy, and already waiting for you. And remember, feeling scared is not your disqualifier, it is your starting signal. The people you think are fearless just have more reps walking into discomfort while their heart is racing. Every time you do your 5 minutes with fear sitting right beside you, you are voting for a new identity. I am the kind of person who moves even when I'm afraid. So as we fade out here, take this with you, almost like a line of code you can run anytime your chest tightens. Fear can stay, I move anyway. Let the music carry that sentence for a moment. Then go schedule your 5 minutes. I'll see you in the comments in 7 days.